So, a few months ago, the internet first got wind of the latest of the many Pinocchio films to hit theatres or streaming services. Seriously, there's been quite a lot. But unlike these other films, which have sought to craft a live-action experience to often unsettling results, this effort instead chooses to play a little bit on your nostalgia and went for animation. And yeah, I'm not going to mince words. It was clear from the trailer that this was going to be a piece of shit. I mean, it was really, truly obvious that it was going to be terrible, considering nobody had ever heard of it before, and the animation looked very cheap. So from the get-go, it seemed like a bit of a cringe fest. And then on top of that, the English trailer had some of the worst voice acting of all time, and I mean all time. And I don't think there's many examples of a time where professional actors, professionals, they're paid for this, have put out such a consistently bad performance over the course of an entire film. And I mean, when you watch the trailer, you kind of assume it's going to be so bad it's good, with yassified Pinocchio and the terrible script. But really, I recommend from the get-go that you only watch the compilations of the funniest bits. Abandon hope if you actually choose to sit down and watch the full thing, like I did. Oh, so many regrets. Oh, and on top of that, the film's score, its musical soundtrack, may be the one thing that could have been good out of this shit show. Sounded like somebody fired up GarageBand, tinkered around for a couple of hours and said, yes, an hour-and-a-half movie? These 3 tracks on loop will do the job. I get that this film probably had a shoestring budget, but come on. Anyway though, let's move into the plot, because this is where the magic happens. This ridiculous script combines with pathetic voice acting to craft the most putrid cinematic experience I've ever sat through completely. Seriously, the bad voice acting and the silly lines become a lot less funny the longer you endure them. But anyway, let's talk about the plot. Let's talk through the whole story so you don't have to watch it. Because there's a lot to talk about, and pretty much every scene is a roller coaster. And we start off the film with Tybalt the horse, or T-Bolt, or Tybalt, whichever way the voice actor chooses to pronounce it for that particular line. And believe me, they mix and match it.
Tybalt. 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 Tybalt.
Tybalt.
Tybalt. Tybalt. Tybalt. Tybalt.
Anyway, he opens the film with narration about how all the Pinocchio tales you know are wrong, taking a nice steamy shit over all other adaptations as they mock how the story is stupid if his nose grows long. Like, okay man, I'm sure your version's great. Stay in your lane. Anyway, we then see Geppetto making this puppet to keep him company and pretend like he has a son. And it's very deeply creepy. I mean, this puppet's life-sized. Ugh. Anyway, he tries a few different names, insulting Leo DiCaprio and making Ninja Turtles references along the way, before he settles on Pinocchio, only for someone to knock on the door. And well, it turns out his customer is a fairy, and that he's just finished fixing her magic wand. And this is never explained. Like, how did he fix a magic wand? Is he a wizard? If so, why can't he make Pinocchio real? Why doesn't he just make himself a son? Anyway, he gives the wand to Lysilda the fairy, who speaks like she's a Russian woman, trying to lose her Russian accent, and ending up sounding somewhere between English and Australian, and who for some reason has a pet cockatoo. Anyway, because she likes to stir shit up, and she thinks it would make for a good story, she brings Pinocchio to life as she rides off into the night, GarageBand soundtrack belting out one of its 3 tracks as loud as it can. And yes, well, he comes to life, and he and Geppetto both collapse. Fun times. A time skip later, suddenly Pinocchio is a master horseman and circus performer, and likes to perform tricks with Tybalt in the yard. But he's bored of his life and he wants to go and see the world. But his father won't let him, because he's a wooden boy. Real talk though, Geppetto is right. People would burn this freak at the stake thinking he's some kind of monster if this was real life. But it's here that we meet some random detective who's out to catch criminals and has arrived at Geppetto's house to search, pretty much confirming that the world is dangerous. So obviously this guy is going to be an important character that's going to make Pinocchio's life difficult all through the film, right? Because he's not going to trust a wooden boy and he's going to think the worst of him. Wrong, because this guy has almost no plot relevance until the very end of the film. So best forget about him until we need to see him again. Just thinking about his storyline makes me physically ill. Ugh. Wait for the twist. Anyway, we then hear some gunshots, and Pinocchio and Tybalt go to investigate, stumbling across a runaway carriage and a bunch of circus performers. And using his equestrian and acrobatic skills, Pinocchio saves the day and saves the girl, and then gets shot by a trigger-happy cat for his trouble, before signing up to join the circus with the guy that shot him, and ditching Geppetto immediately. Oh, and here we meet his love interest. She has almost no character other than saying, "Oh, Pinocchio!" And it turns out that his friend the horse is also just a terrible character, a terrible person. Because when the carriage is headed for the cliff, he tells Pinocchio, "It's not our problem." So yes, just let her die. What a kind secondary protagonist we have here. A great character that you can really get behind and find likeable. And also, how did Pinocchio survive getting shot? Yeah, he's made of wood, but he was shot point blank with one of those musket ball things. And he's just a block of wood, and he shrugs it off. No damage. He's not even chipped. And his clothes are perfectly fine. Anyway, Pinocchio joins the circus, and he becomes an overnight sensation. And his love interest has a very awkward and out-of-place musical number. Twice over. And I'm pretty sure they only have those 2 songs as well, so I'm not sure what they were going for here. Was it meant to be a musical, but they scrapped the rest? But anyway, after a weird conversation where he calls the horse his surrogate father out of nowhere, I'm not sure where they got that plot point from, he attempts to woo her, only to immediately get rejected because she wants him to leave the circus because everyone else in the circus is a criminal and she wants to keep him safe. Unfortunately though, she doesn't explain any of this to him, and so he thinks it's because he's made of wood. And so the fox and the cat, 2 more circus performers, try to trick him into looking for a magical fairy where they can con him out of his money. But thankfully, Tybalt actually does something useful for a change and prevents them from getting conned. At which point, the villains try to kill them out of nowhere, and then they magically and conveniently stumble across the path that will lead them directly to the fairy's house. And of course, here they stumble across Lucilda's cockatoo companion, who straight up tries to murder them with a rock slide, and when he fails, gets upset and says he's losing his touch. And this is never mentioned again. Nobody's mad about it. Nobody cares. Literally seconds later, Tybalt and Pinocchio just shrug it off. Like, what the hell, you little freak? These people just want some help, and you decide to murder them? Dank. Next up, though, they finally get to Lucilda the fairy's house, and she tells them to go away, because she can't make him human. Nice. This storyline lasted 20 minutes in a film that goes for an hour and a half. That's a fairly decent chunk of story to toss away on a whim. And it's even worse, because she says that she actually does have that power, literally minutes later. But she chose not to use it because it wasn't the right time. What the hell, fairy? What the hell? And here is where that detective from earlier comes back into it, as he realizes the circus performers are crooks, and believes that Pinocchio is the ringleader because he's the star of the show. So he arrests him before getting beaten up by Tybalt with the 2 escaping. Oh, and they steal his handkerchief, and that'll be important later. So Tybalt goes off on his own to set up his secret plan, whilst Pinocchio goes off to free Bella, and ends up imprisoned after a very cringy dramatic scene between the 2 lovebirds where he realizes she knew about the crimes and said nothing. Oh, and it turns out they've kidnapped Geppetto too, because they can. So bad luck, Geppetto. But good thing that Tybalt has his extra sneaky plan. Because after they do their performance that night at the circus, they reveal that the ringmaster, the cat, and the fox are criminals, and that out of nowhere, the detective is suddenly friendly towards Pinocchio and is here to save the day. But oh no, the big top's on fire, and Bella's trapped. And Pinocchio saves the day. But he falls into the fire, like literally into the flames. And somehow he's still saved by Tybalt. And Pinocchio's dead. He's not like burnt to a crisp or anything, but somehow the wooden puppet has seemingly died of smoke inhalation. Oh well though, because he becomes a real boy at this point. And then it turns out that Bella is the detective's long-lost daughter because they have matching hankies. What a twist. Everyone's a winner. Bet the writers thought this was such a good twist as well, which makes it doubly sad. So I wasted almost 2 hours of my life with this film, and I never want to speak of it again after this. The plot was terrible, the dialogue was stupid, the twists sucked, no character development, no character consistency, just bad. And of course, the worst voice acting of all time. Here, have a taste of its glory.
We'll do something more interesting and magical.
My greetings, sir.
I've seen this before!
I'm a boy and I'm alive! His name is Geppetto. I'm a freak!
What do you expect me to say? See you later, my dear Geppetto!
What is that blockhead doing? How much longer do I have to wait?
Besides, there is a secret. If someone wants to be human, all they have to do is be human.
Whoa!
One of the clowns I know was told by another clown.
It was Bella. You said it yourself.
You sacrificed yourself for another. Only someone with a real heart and soul could do this.
Of course not. You left it in my mouth. Remember?
But as always, these were my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the film if you've seen it? Good? Bad? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.